family of a missing schoolcraft teacher is speaking exclusively with News Channel 3.
I can't see her just disappearing for 2 weeks and not telling somebody.
As search crews comb the area tonight, we're learning new information about the hours leading up to Theresa Lockhart's disappearance. News Channel 3's Alex Jokic spent the day piecing this strange situation together. She's live in Portage now with the latest. Alex.
Andy, right now we are at the park and ride on Center Avenue where Theresa Lockhart's car was found. Her sister tells me that detail just does not make any sense. Now search crews are plastering Theresa's face all over town and hoping for the best.
To do a search.
Figured the best place to start is the last place that we know that she was seen.
Volunteers are amping up efforts in the search for a high school Spanish teacher, now missing 13 days.
And there are a lot of good people in this community willing to help find Mrs. Lockhart.
Leading up to her disappearance, we're told Theresa Lockhart had called out sick from school Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, then just didn't show up on Thursday or Friday.
This isn't normal.
Schoolcraft Superintendent Rusty Stitt was the one who called police on Saturday. He says teachers and students are now wearing red ribbons in her honor.
They're family, and it does hurt.
Theresa is married with 2 stepkids. Her sister Joan lives in Canada.
Not knowing is the scary part.
She says Theresa's husband was the last person who saw her.
He wasn't aware, as far as I can figure out, that she had left the house at 10 o'clock. He said her frame of mind was good.
Close friends tell us Theresa had been feeling anxious with several stressors at school and at home, but she was dealing with it positively. They say it doesn't make any sense for her to just disappear. Her car randomly at a park and ride several miles from home.
Everyone's praying that everything is okay with her.
A prayer vigil is planned for tomorrow night at 5:30 at Theresa's former church in Kentwood. It is open to the public. If you know anything about the disappearance of Theresa Lockhart, call Portage Public Safety or Silent Observer right away.
News Channel 3 starts off with breaking news right now.
Right now, police are confirming to News Channel 3 that the disappearance of a schoolcraft teacher is now a possible homicide investigation.
And News Channel 3 has been closely following the Theresa Lockhart case since she went missing 2 weeks ago. We have live team coverage tonight on new developments in this case.
We begin with News Channel 3's Alex Jokic, who joins us live from the park and ride on Center with the latest from detectives. Alex.
Andy, Christine, this is where Theresa Lockhart's car was found 2 weeks ago and where police started their search for her. Tonight, they're telling us it appears she may not be alive and her husband is a person of interest. 15 days after this high school Spanish teacher mysteriously vanished, police say their missing persons case may be something much darker.
There is a great probability that she is deceased.
Deputy Chief John Blue says they've become increasingly suspicious of Theresa's husband, Chris. They say Theresa's school, not her husband, reported her missing after she didn't show up to work for 2 days. Chris has not shown up to any of the vigils in his wife's honor, and they say he is refusing to cooperate with detectives.
It wouldn't be what you expected as someone that you're told that your spouse is missing and there's no proof of life or no contact. It definitely raised some eyebrows at that point.
Police found Theresa's car at a park and ride several miles from their home shortly after she was reported missing. They are not releasing any details about evidence, but confirm they have done multiple ground, aerial, and dog searches at the park and ride and near the Lockhart home. Police say Chris Lockhart has not allowed them to search inside the home.
These events are very serious to us. It's important because she needs to be found. We need to have closure with this, both for her and her family.
Theresa's family and friends have been holding out hope she'd be found safe, but police say there's no proof of life, so now they're looking at her possible death.
It is very troubling. You have someone that is a friend, a beloved teacher, family, and she's gone, and there is nothing.
We now have a better idea of the timeline from May 18th. That's the day Theresa disappeared. And we'll share that with you coming up at 6. For now, live in Portage, Alex Jokic, News Channel 3.
At this point, Portage police say that Theresa Lockhart's husband, Christopher, is not a suspect in her disappearance. However, he is a person of interest. Tonight, the I-Team is digging into Christopher Lockhart's background, and we found a long list of criminal charges in 2 different states. News Channel 3 investigative reporter Walter Smith-Randolph continues our live coverage in the newsroom to show us what he's found out. Walter.
Andy and Christine, these are the results of background checks that we ran in Michigan and South Carolina, where Lockhart went to college. In both states, Christopher Lockhart was charged with being a peeping Tom. The more serious charges, however, are here in Michigan, where Lockhart was ordered to have no contact with his wife just last year. Back in November, Christopher Lockhart was charged with domestic violence against his wife, Theresa Lockhart. As part of the bond conditions, he was ordered to have no contact with Theresa. He was also ordered to remove all of his personal belongings from their Portage home. But just a few weeks later, Theresa Lockhart requested the no contact order removed. On November 29th, the domestic violence charge was reduced to assault and battery. Christopher Lockhart did initially plead guilty, but just 3 months later, the entire case was dismissed. Lockhart has also been charged with operating while intoxicated in Michigan and eavesdropping in South Carolina. Again, he is not charged in connection to Lockhart's disappearance and is only considered a person of interest at this point.
News Channel 3 starts off with breaking news right now.
And we do begin with breaking news in the disappearance of a local teacher, Theresa Lockhart. New video and audio tapes have surfaced tonight that could provide new clues about the moments before and after she went missing last month.
This comes as her disappearance and possible homicide are still being investigated. Theresa Lockhart's husband, Christopher Lockhart, is considered a person of interest.
News Channel 3 investigative reporter Cody Combs is live now with those new video and audio recordings provided by a neighbor of Lockhart's. Cody.
Andy and Kate, neighbors say what we're about to show you and what you're about to hear was recorded on May 27th at 11:30 in the morning. Later on that same day, Portage police swing by the Lockhart's home and approach Theresa's husband, Chris, asking him about those gunshots neighbors say they heard.
Hey, Chris, how you doing? Doing all right. I thought you the other day. Oh, yeah. Well, we got a call that said about 11:30 this morning. The neighbors heard a couple of gunshots. Okay, it come from here. I heard it. It sounded like it came from over there. You heard it too? Yeah, I did hear it.
Shortly after police ask Lockhart about those gunshots, investigators leave and Lockhart does as well. We should point out that in 2016, Christopher Lockhart was charged with domestic assault against his wife, Theresa, and he was ordered to have no contact with her, although later Theresa did have that no contact order removed. Neighbors say Lockhart would frequently yell, scream, and threaten his wife, and they provided us with this clip which they say shows the full range of his fury toward Theresa in the summer of 2016. Portage police say they still do not know where she is or if she's alive. They also say they consider this to be a possible homicide investigation, telling the I-Team, quote, "We encourage anybody who has any information on Theresa Lockhart's whereabouts and anything about the investigation to contact us." And we did pass along that audio and video to Portage police. Lockhart's car was found at a park and ride several miles from her home shortly after she was reported missing, but other than that, no sign so far of Theresa Lockhart.
News Channel 3 starts off with breaking news right now.
Police raid the home of missing Kalamazoo area teacher Theresa Lockhart for the second time in a month tonight, this time taking her husband Christopher Lockhart off to jail in handcuffs. News Channel 3 broke the news for you tonight at 10, and we were the only crew on the scene as police searched the Lockhart's home in Portage for hours. Undercover officers have just cleared the scene, but not before our cameras arrived to capture video that you'll see only on News Channel 3.
News Channel 3's Walter Smith-Randolph has been speaking with police and with neighbors and joins us live from the Lockhart's neighborhood in Portage with the latest. Walter.
Andy and Kate, this all took place around 8 o'clock this evening here on Poplar Bluff Court in Portage. Police confirmed with us that Christopher Lockhart is under arrest. However, they say that this investigation is separate. It is completely different from the disappearance of his wife, Theresa Lockhart. This investigation is about the malicious destruction of property that apparently took place here on Poplar Bluff Court. Now, court records show that Lockhart is being held on 2 charges: destruction of property and interference with a communications device. Now, that destruction of property charge, that is a felony. We're told this investigation is about wires being cut at a home here in this neighborhood. While this is a separate investigation, Lockhart remains a person of interest into the disappearance of his wife, Theresa. Today actually marks 7 weeks since the schoolcraft teacher was last seen. Police did confirm with us last month that her disappearance is now a possible homicide case.
News Channel 3 starts off with breaking news right now.
Police raid the home of missing Kalamazoo area teacher Theresa Lockhart for the second time in a month tonight, this time taking her husband, Christopher Lockhart, off to jail in handcuffs. News Channel 3 broke the news for you tonight at 10, and we were the only crew on the scene as police searched the Lockhart's home in Portage for hours. Undercover officers have just cleared the scene, but not before our cameras arrived to capture video that you'll see only on News Channel 3.
News Channel 3's Walter Smith-Randolph has been speaking with police and with neighbors and joins us live from the Lockhart's neighborhood in Portage with the latest. Walter.
Andy and Kate, this all took place around 8 o'clock this evening here on Poplar Bluff Court in Portage. Police confirmed with us that Christopher Lockhart is under arrest. However, they say that this investigation is separate. It is completely different from the disappearance of his wife, Theresa Lockhart. This investigation is about the malicious destruction of property that apparently took place here on Poplar Bluff Court. Now, court records show that Lockhart is being held on 2 charges: destruction of property and interference with a communications device. Now, that destruction of property charge, that is a felony. We're told this investigation is about wires being cut at a home here in this neighborhood. While this is a separate investigation, Lockhart remains a person of interest into the disappearance of his wife, Theresa. Today actually marks 7 weeks since the schoolcraft teacher was last seen. Police did confirm with us last month that her disappearance is now a possible homicide case. This now marks the second time police have executed a search warrant on this home. We have seen police coming in and out all night. They cleared the scene around 10 o'clock. We were the only station here when that happened. We also talked to some neighbors exclusively tonight who say that there has been some odd behavior in this neighborhood by Chris Lockhart, and that someone has also defaced the missing posters of Theresa Lockhart.
And I were out walking a few nights ago, and we noticed that the missing posters for Theresa Lockhart have been defaced. Not only here on this corner, but as well out at the light post at the intersection of Oakland Drive. And we just find that very, very odd.
As the search for missing Portage woman Theresa Lockhart continues, the I-Team is looking through new video obtained by News Channel 3 today of her husband, Chris Lockhart. We broke the news on WWMT.com and showed it to you first at noon.
Now, Lockhart, who remains a person of interest in the possible murder of his wife, was released from jail on Monday. He is facing property destruction charges tonight. News Channel 3 investigative reporter Cody Combs is live in our newsroom with the video that led to Lockhart's arrest. Cody.
Andy, after Portage police arrested Lockhart on those property destruction charges, we put in a Freedom of Information Act request for the video evidence. Today, we received it. Here's a look at the surveillance video from the neighbor of Lockhart. Portage police say you can see a man resembling Chris Lockhart slowly walking toward his neighbor's home and then going briefly out of frame. You can then hear the cutting of cables to the home, air conditioning and electricity cables presumably. Shortly after that AC unit is silenced, police say you can see Lockhart scurry and then run back to his home. They arrested Lockhart a few days later. In the probable cause hearing, you can hear investigators say why they definitely think Lockhart is the one cutting the cables.
Subject was caught on camera. That subject came out of the house next door after extinguishing the lights. Was seen on video coming over. He's the only person that goes to the area where the cable was cut. Goes back to the house next door and turns the light back on. And the person who lives next door is Christopher Lockhart, who resembles the person in the video.
Again, Chris Lockhart posted bond and was released from jail on Monday. He'll be in court later on July 26 on the property destruction charges. As for his wife, Theresa Lockhart, it has been 8 weeks since she was last seen. Portage police telling me today Lockhart is still considered a person of interest in her possible homicide.
Christopher Lockhart faced a judge yesterday after his 4th arrest since his wife's disappearance 11 weeks ago. The News Channel 3 I-Team broke the new developments at noon, and investigative reporter Cody Combs continues to dig deeper into this story. He is live in the newsroom with video, Cody, from Lockhart's latest arraignment.
Kate, just before his arrest yesterday, deputies say they found an unusual amount of cash and a passport on Lockhart, and they say that sent up the red flags about him possibly being a flight risk. In court yesterday for tampering with his GPS alcohol tether, Lockhart told the judge that wasn't the case at all. Keep in mind, we've heard very little from Lockhart since he was named a person of interest in his wife's possible murder. Yesterday, he spoke quite a bit before the judge set conditions of his bond. He also stopped just short of trying to explain the large amount of cash and passport he had on him before his arrest.
I would say I'm not a threat to the community. This isn't a violent crime. And that's all I would have to say, Your Honor. All right, Your Honor, I would just add, I guess it's too late to add about the passport, but okay. Thank you.
You're all set.
Lockhart bonded out of jail on a $10,000 cash or surety bond, but again, this time he had to surrender his passport. Keep in mind, we're approaching 11 weeks since his wife Theresa Lockhart was last seen.
Tonight, newly obtained recordings of a Portage man who remains a person of interest in his wife's disappearance and possible murder. And you'll hear them first on News Channel 3. The I-Team has obtained actual audio of Christopher Lockhart, who police say was enraged and screaming at his neighbors back in July.
News Channel 3 investigative reporter Cody Combs is live in studio after listening to these recordings. Cody.
Kate and Andy, what you're about to hear is just some of the rant, but in the entire recording, Chris Lockhart uses the F word at least 30 times and screams countless times, all while making borderline threats toward his neighbors. This recording came from the neighbors of Christopher Lockhart days after he became a person of interest in his wife's disappearance and possible murder toward the end of May. All this rage came after Lockhart's neighbors came forward, providing audio allegedly showing him screaming at his wife Theresa months before she disappeared. This recording from July was taken from his neighbor's camera before Lockhart would later be seen vandalizing their home, for which he was later arrested. It would be the first of a few arrests, none of them, however, directly related to his wife's disappearance. As for the disappearance of his wife Theresa, she has not been seen in 5 months.
News Channel 3 starts off with breaking news right now.
We're learning new information in a story that we first broke for you at 5 o'clock tonight. Portage police confirming Christopher Lockhart, who's been considered a person of interest in his wife Theresa's months-long disappearance, has died from a possible suicide. News Channel 3 investigative reporter Cody Combs was the first reporter on scene as police roped off an area near the Lockhart home.
He is live now with new information concerning this breaking news. Cody.
Andy and Kate, right now the coroner van is right out in front of Lockhart's home. Lockhart, again, dead inside that home. That's what Portage police are telling us. We're going to go right to a Portage police statement, which I'm going to read for you right here. We just received moments ago. Portage Department of Public Safety officers gained entry into the residence and located Christopher Lockhart deceased. The preliminary investigation indicates signs of a possible suicide. Detectives are continuing to investigate the death and look for information that might provide assistance in the location of Lockhart's missing wife, Theresa, who has been missing since May 20th, 2017. The investigation is continuing and updates will be provided. Again, to bring this full circle, Lockhart found dead. They do suspect suicide at this moment, and May 20th is when his wife Theresa first went missing, last seen walking out of that family fitness in Portage. Ever since then, Lockhart was labeled a person of interest and uncooperative by Portage police. And since that moment, he's been acting erratic, to say the least, getting arrested for drunk driving, violating his parole, even screaming at his neighbors and cutting the cables to his neighbor's home at one point. Today, however, 5 months after his wife was last seen, Chris Lockhart, we're told, has been found dead.
Friends of Theresa Lockhart say the signs were there. A troubled marriage and erratic behavior from her husband all pointed to foul play. And before tonight's announcement confirming that, Theresa's friends told News Channel 3 they are grateful that closure seemed close. We now do have closure, although it is very tragic. Our Walter Smith-Randolph is live now in Portage with more reaction from Theresa's good friends. Walter.
Andy, those good friends of Theresa say they knew that this would not end well. From the beginning, they thought that something was wrong because Theresa Lockhart was not the type of person to just run off, leaving her friends and family wondering where she was. These friends also tell me that Chris Lockhart's erratic behavior is what made them feel uneasy. And Portage police just telling us that they too thought Chris's behavior indicated that there was some foul play.
I can honestly say rarely does a day go by that I don't think of Theresa.
Marianne and Jim Houston knew when Theresa didn't show up for church one Sunday, something was wrong.
She would never not show up without calling me, unless something really dramatic happened. This isn't Theresa.
The Houstons attend church at St. Joseph's in Kalamazoo, where Theresa was a lector.
Very serious about her faith.
Marianne says Theresa was also very serious about making her marriage with Chris Lockhart work.
She did share with me that that there were difficulties in the marriage, and would I pray for Chris? Would I pray for Chris?
Marianne also talked with Chris Lockhart after Theresa disappeared without a trace. She says he was disheveled and nervous.
You would be nervous if your loved one was missing and you didn't know, but there was something about it that when I left, I didn't have a good feeling.
While neighbors and friends' worst fears may have been realized, they are grateful there may be some closure.
And I've said more than once, this man is under tremendous pressure. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take his own life. But I hope he lets us know where Theresa is.
It's a tragic end to a 5-month-long mystery after intense searching that turned up nothing. A suicide note and hand-drawn map from Christopher Lockhart himself finally led police to the body of his long-missing wife.
Not only did that contain a hand-drawn map that led us to ultimately find Theresa, but it also contained a written confession by Chris Lockhart.
Christopher, whatever else he did wrong, if he left information that told where she was, that it was his last good act.
And tonight, family and friends are reacting with shock, anger, and some relief that closure may finally be within reach. We've been on top of this rapidly developing story ever since we broke the news that police had swarmed the Lockhart home in Portage early Tuesday afternoon.
And we continue tonight with live team coverage, beginning with Nikki Zizaza, who spoke with Theresa's loved ones. She is live tonight in Portage at the carpool lot where Theresa's abandoned car was found, setting off a 5-month search for answers. Nikki.
That's right, Kate. Theresa Lockhart's mother is understandably distraught, but I sat down with Theresa's best friend who says they now have a few answers and they can begin the healing process.
Michelle Addington says her nightmare came to life when police confirmed the body they pulled from the woods in rural Allegan County was that of her best friend Theresa Lockhart.
Exactly what I had been concerned about. It was my darkest and deepest fear that I kind of shoved in that corner and said, worst case scenario, that's what happened.
The shocking discovery concluding an intensive search that left the community and Theresa's family on edge for months.
Her mom really felt very strongly. She was dead right away. So her mom has very much already accepted it because she accepted it in May. Her daughter was no longer with her.
Just hours after Christopher Lockhart was found dead in his basement, detectives finding a note that led them to Theresa's body.
These two notes are what Portage police found when they discovered Christopher Lockhart's body. A suicide note, an apology, and a handwritten map leading detectives to the exact spot where Theresa would be found. The note from Lockhart says, "I killed her the night of May 18th. I choked her to death and we were arguing and I snapped. I took her body to the Allegan game area the next day and buried her there. I am so sorry for this horrible act. I apologize to her mother, friends, family, and the community for this senseless act. I live with it every moment of the day and I miss her so much. I didn't put her first. That was my biggest mistake." The note goes on to say, "I also killed the cats. They were urinating everywhere, and we were supposed to put them down, but we argued about that too. Again, I was drunk and angry and killed them. I'm sorry for all of this." Lockhart signed the note on October 23rd at 11:15. His body was found the next day. Police also found this handwritten map. It shows Theresa's body would be found off of 122nd Avenue in Allegan County. The map has a note directed to Police Detective Hess, which says, "I'm sorry for taking her away from everyone. Find her and put her to rest. I had no right to do what I did. I pray that God forgives me. I love her so much." Just 2 weeks ago, News Channel 3 spoke with Portage Police about the investigation.
We felt pretty much from the beginning that she was dead somewhere.
Oh, I have all kinds of questions I'd like to ask him, but I can't say as I'm upset with the outcome.